What is up, ladies and gentlemen of the Online Jamily? JamiroFan2000, the beard of wisdom of the Online Jamily, with yet another episode of the Jamiroquai Minute. All the latest Jamiroquai news, and we had three legendary musical artists and bands from my generation just get inducted into the 2025 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with a little bit of a Jamiroquai connection, but nonetheless very exciting to see more major musical artists of my generation get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So let's get into more news about that.
Hi, this is Stuart Zender, and you're watching the JamiroFan2000.
In the 2025 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction artist news, I had to quote a Jamiroquai minute. Now, this is going to be a little bit about Jamiroquai, but three major artists included with a bunch of other artists just got officially going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the class of 2025, coming up at the ceremony in November, but I thought I'd record an episode of the Jamiroquai minute to note these three major artists of my generation that have such a lovely place in my musical heart being inducted as part of the 2025 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Hall of Fame institution. Starting off with one of the most important artists of my generation. Of course, I'm talking about Detroit's own The White Stripes, which of course is comprised of Jag and Meg White, who during the early 2000s made a name for themselves doing amazing blues music. And on the outside, they got categorized as more of a alt rock kind of act from the 2000 to 2010, but nonetheless, the White Stripes put out some amazing albums in their time, including White Blood Cells and Elephant and Get Behind Me Satan, and they're an amazing blues duo who sadly broke up, and Jack White went his own way, becoming more of a solo artist than anything, and being one of the biggest magnets of great guitarists of his generation. And they ended up, they're the first major inductee for the 2025 into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The second major artist to be inducted in this year's class, of course, is one of the hip-hop royalty of the ATL hip-hop scene, and one of the first real hip-hop collectives to bring back funk strong into 2000. Some of their albums like Southern Playalistic and Atlians, and of course the album that broke them into the American mainstream. Of course, I'm talking about Stankonia in the year 2000. Of course, I'm talking about Big Boy and Andre 3000 with Outkast. And Outkast had an amazing streak of amazing records, aforementionedly, from Atlians, the Southern Playalistic, to, of course, the aforementioned Stankonia, and of course they did an amazing double album called Speakerbox of Love Below, and then of course they ended up collaborating on a album soundtrack for a movie called Idlewild, but sadly thereafter, around the 2010s, they kind of dissolved as a group. Big Boy going his own direction, producing and making his own solo music, and same thing with Andre 3000. But nonetheless, Outkast have been sorely overlooked and are finally going to be going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the year of 2025. And lastly on this list, of the short list of these inductees for the 2025 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, of course, one of the best alt-rock bands of the post-grunge American era. Of course, I'm talking about Soundgarden. Soundgarden was yet another band that kind of rode the coattails of the Nirvana and Pearl Jam, Seattle-based grunge movement of the mid to late 90s. But Soundgarden, nonetheless, Chris Cornell was one of the most gifted songwriters of his generation. Soundgarden produced some amazing albums like Bad Motorfinger, and of course, Super Unknown, and one of my favorites, Blow Up the Outside World. And sadly, Chris Cornell left us very, very young in his life, but nonetheless, his contribution to American music and with the band Soundgarden will never be forgotten. And I still think Soundgarden deservingly are going to be going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2025. And as I aforementionedly said at the beginning of this episode of the Jamiroquai Minute, all these artists and a bunch of other artists will be inducted in the official ceremonies for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame class of 2025 in November of this year. And I thought it was befitting to do an episode of the Jamiroquai Minute to note these amazing artists, and congratulations to everybody who got inducted as part of the 2025 class of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But as always, this is JamiroFan2000. I highly recommend everybody in the Jamily to check out all those artists and all the other artists that got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in your own time, when you can, in your own time, during your musical musings and listenings. But as always, this is JamiroFan2000, and I'll see you again really soon with another Jamiroquai Minute. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care, and I'll see you around.